Hey y'all, welcome back to Twin Oaks Family Farm in rural southeast Ohio, USA. We are in the meat bird grower pen with the broilers. So broiler is just a word really for any chicken that is being raised specifically for meat production. And these are meat chickens. They are Cornish rock cross meat chickens. So we're going to take a look at them. This video was supposed to be 100 broilers, 27 days old, but we actually had a flock loss today on their day 27. So at the moment it's 99 broilers, 27 days old. And we had wanted to do a theme in the video today that change is the only constant when raising meat birds, but we kind of got derailed on that plan. So pretty much just gonna turn the camera to look at the birds and kind of fill you in on why the plan changed. We'll do that video another day, but we actually were recording when the bird that died today passed away, and it was acute heart failure. So sudden onset of heart failure, heart attack. But generally what happens is that that's the culmination of an ongoing progression of heart failure that could have been set into motion earlier in production by some kind of stress, such as temperature stress, particularly chill stress in the first several days of production. So as we're looking at the birds, we'll discuss that a little bit. There's actually the bird that died today. So it's discouraging. It's always discouraging when you lose a bird. But the bird that died today had actually been kind of on our radar, kind of watching it. We had seen some indicators that pretty much tell us the bird's experiencing heart failure. So we actually have one more in the flock that we're a little bit concerned about. But actually for this whole flock, there's kind of an ongoing question in the back of our minds. You know, how is week 4 and week 5 going to go? So they're being 27 days old. We're right at coming up on 4 weeks old, and there is a question, you know, like I said, in the back of our minds, how is week 4 going to go? How's week 5 going to go? Because when these birds moved in, so that's for all purposes, that's the day they hatch. We call it day 1. The day they're hatched, they're shipped to us from the hatchery, and actually the day they shipped to us that night got down to 28 degrees Fahrenheit. So they need an ambient temperature of about 95 degrees Fahrenheit at that point, which we had supplemental heat on, we had heat lamps, and had the ambient temperature in their environment warm. But you know, still, I mean, I still wondered, like, is that something that caused enough temperature stress that it compromised the heart function from that point on. So let's take a look, and I'll just kind of talk about some of that as we're looking at the birds for a few minutes. But you know, I will say that flock loss in meat bird production is normal. You know, we try to minimize it as much as we can. We'd love to eliminate it, but in general, there's going to be some flock loss. That's typical. And sometimes flock loss reflects a need to improve some kind of management practice in the moment for that particular flock, and then, you know, maybe also systemically from flock to flock in the management practices. But frequently flock loss does not reflect on management practices, and the truth is, with raising meat birds, we tell people that are raising small flocks similar to our operation, you know, don't get discouraged if and when you experience flock loss with your meat birds, because it happens. It's typical, and you can do all the things really well management wise and still have flock loss. So you know, sometimes it's just the way it goes. But even though, you know, start of the day 27, we had 100 birds, and 99 of them seem to be doing really well and thriving, you know, we still want to make the effort in individual care for that one that maybe isn't, you know, thriving like the rest of them. But as it turned out, that one that we were watching for today ended up not making it. So that happens. And as I said, there's one more. If we can pick it out while we're looking at the birds, we'll do that. But flock loss prior to processing, where you lose birds to mortality, does happen when you're raising Cornish rock cross meat chickens. So if you're raising them and you experience that, try not to be discouraged. Assess the situation. If it was something that's a random thing that affected an individual, then there's not much you can do about it. If it's something that is a ambient condition thing that affected a flock, you know, it's probably something that you can leverage your resources to maybe make an improvement and maybe reduce or minimize that being an issue for flocks in the future. But at any rate, let's go ahead and take a look. So overall, we are at 99, but overall this flock is doing really, really well. Really pleased with the birds. There is an ongoing question though. How will the next 2 weeks go? So we have 2 weeks left of production. We raise our birds on a 6-week production schedule. We try to stick right at 6 weeks. In 2024, we may move to 5 weeks, but in trying to stay at 6 weeks, we have to schedule everything way in advance. And on the finishing end, we work with a USDA inspected processor, and on the starting end, you know, we get the birds from a hatchery. So by the time we integrate the processor's scheduling and the hatchery scheduling and our on-farm production scheduling, then, you know, sometimes we have to go a little longer than 42 days or a little shorter than 42 days. But this group is going 44, and that's a good production window. So, you know, we have a variety of activity levels happening in the pen. Some are up getting water to drink. Some are eating. Got some back there to feed her. And I don't know if we can get a good look over there. We got one over there to feed her. We got some close by. Ooh, we'll zoom back out of that. Got some close by here eating, and got some of the big feeders. So they're doing good. A lot of them are in a resting phase right now. They've been resting. So what you're seeing is kind of the beginnings of the stirrings of, like, they kind of have a natural circadian rhythm where they'll basically be in a resting period, and then kind of collectively as a group, you'll know they'll start to get up and go to eat and go to drink. And while they're in that active stretch, they will manure, and then they'll go back to resting. And so when you see a flock of meat birds resting a lot, you don't want to assume that that's an indicator that they're not doing well. In fact, that's an indicator that can be an indicator that they probably are doing well, because, you know, they grow very, very rapidly. And that was going to be the basis of that theme we do want to do a video on, that the only constant in raising meat birds is change, because they grow so rapidly that we have to kind of keep pace with that, and it requires a lot of adjusting in their space and with their feeders and waters, and sometimes with the supplemental heat. So we'll do a video like that. But they just grow so rapidly, and in general, in living things, rest is one of the components that supports growth. So naturally, they rest a lot. And actually, what you see happen in their growth pattern is, like, you know, we've got these birds at 4 weeks old. They've already grown a lot and grown rapidly, but moving forward, the growth rate is just going to increase. They're going to grow even more rapidly. So their appetite's going to increase. They're going to consume more feed, consume more water, and that whole rate is going to increase. And they're going to rest increasingly more and more as well. So I'm not seeing the one bird that we have, another bird that's kind of on our radar to watch for heart failure. So sometimes we see a difference in the feathering. It becomes a little frizzled and they puff it out more. And then we also sometimes see a change in the skin color. Like that skin tone is healthy pale pink. Sometimes we see it take on a dark red or bluish purplish cast if they're experiencing the progression of heart failure. So we're going to check back in on this group tomorrow. We're running out of time.